So, you guys know Zepla. I've reacted to her here before. I know this channel doesn't overlap a vast amount according to the back end on YouTube, where it says, like, do you know who else people that watch gaming kind of watch? She's not actually shortlisted on that list. But hopefully you guys know her shining face. And actually, after she published this "Why Now Is Best," Brian and I had already in the past recorded something that went live in the future, which is now the past, and I'm now in the present. And so, of course, because of the laws of YouTube, that means we were copying her. And so we're in good company there with our video going live. And I'm interested to see, because I didn't get to see this before we hit record, kind of why she thinks now is a good time to start 14. With all the sprouts coming into the game, with all the new players considering the game, it is a interesting time in the 0.5 patch to continually be asked, like, is now appropriate? Should I wait? The game comes out in November. When is the best time to get started? Am I too late to this game? I heard the story was ending, etc.
Half a year away, you might not be feeling a ton of pressure to jump into Final Fantasy 14 right now. You might even be thinking, oh, well, I'll just wait till November 23rd rolls around and then I'll buy Endwalker and start playing. But first of all, you don't actually have to pay for anything to start playing Final Fantasy 14 because Final Fantasy 14 has a free trial that goes up to level 60 and includes the first expansion, Heavensward. So you can milk several hundred hours out of that just on its own. There's not necessarily anything wrong with waiting till November 23rd to buy Endwalker, because if you pre-order it now and you don't have the expansions already, you won't be able to access Stormblood or Shadowbringers content until Endwalker releases, because they're all bundled together.
Yes, for anybody in the critically acclaimed free trial, now including the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60, the meme that's been going around, keep in mind that if you pre-order Endwalker, because of the way the canceling pre-orders works, they cannot give you access to everything that would come with it until it goes live. And so that means that you can only go as far as Heavensward. I've heard as people spending as much as 900 hours exploring everything that has to offer prior to leaving the free trial. But you can't cover Stormblood and Shadowbringers. And so when Endwalker goes live, if you want to be with us on day one, keep in mind that early access is the 19th, official release is the 23rd. You would need to actually buy the expansion that is current right now to be prepared for the brand new expansion coming this November.
So if you want to play the expansions now, you need to buy Shadowbringers now. That includes Stormblood, and then Endwalker when it comes out, or pre-order Endwalker.
And the word you're looking for there is complete. If you are a free trial player, you are going to technically need to own your own copy of the base game. You're playing on kind of a borrowed copy, and so you're going to be looking for the complete edition of Shadowbringers, which will include A Realm Reborn and Heavensward. I believe they're a package, and then Shadowbringers and Stormblood, I believe they're a package, but it doesn't matter. It does everything. It regularly goes on sale, but even the non-sale price, when you look at games that are, you know, quantified by thousands of hours, not dozens of hours, versus something like a single player experience, such as an Assassin's Creed, a God of War, a JRPG or something like that. And then the question becomes, can I play it twice or three times as far as replayability? When you talk about something where you're going to be paying a monthly subscription, possibly the majority, if not all the months of the year, you know, a sale price is great. Save money where you can. Don't opt into paying your sub sooner than you have to if you're happy with the free trial experience and you're still in it. But the complete edition is the purchase that you're looking to make.
Walker. But like I said, the free trial includes Heavensward, and you can get a lot of mileage out of that without paying anything at all. Financial considerations aside, there are some real practical reasons why you would want to play Final Fantasy 14 all the way up through Shadowbringers before Endwalker comes out. The first reason is because leveling to 80 and getting through all of the story on your first character can take easily 200 or 300 hours of playtime. Now that might sound overwhelming at first, but please understand that these are 200 hours that are meant to be enjoyed and relished, and that you get to do only once. It's really enjoyable. Like, I wish I could go back and do it all again for the first time.
It's easy to want to rush to the end of anything. I play Warhammer 40k. You see the models sometimes in the background of my videos. And it's easy to want to rush to the end result. I get that. I am guilty of it in many games. It is something that is meant to play out over that length of time. So, you know, while you have the amount of time from whenever you're watching this until November 19th, Do the math on that. And so, you know, the more days you wait, if somebody tries to hop in November 1st to be with us on the 19th, they've got a rough couple weeks in front of them. And so when the title of this video is why now is the best time to start Final Fantasy XIV, really, like, the easiest time to start Final Fantasy XIV, if you knew in the past that Endwalker was something you'd want to be invested in, would be at the launch of A Realm Reborn. It would be in 1.0, and then you'd have the cheaper sub and the tattoo and everything, and that's a whole mess. That would be the easiest time, knowing what you know now. But you can't do that. It's too late. And so the next best time is like right now, like right this moment. And so the more time you have, the easier it'll be to say, okay, yeah, 200-300 hours is a lot if you look at it like, well, I have stuff to do later today. But it's not that bad when you say, you know what, I play a couple hours a week, and there's a lot of weeks between here and my goal, and so it'll add up by just chipping away at it. I'm just going to log in, I'm going to do 1, 2, or 10, or whatever quests in a sitting, and then I'm going to be done. And then I'll come back, you know, maybe tomorrow or later this week, and I'll do it again. And I'll just keep chipping away at it. And so it is something that you can enjoy the process through, but if you are looking to be done by a certain date, the best way to keep something from seeming overwhelming is to start as early as possible.
But I mean, to properly enjoy it, to play it the way it is designed to be played, which is as a Final Fantasy game, you know, smelling the roses along the way, yeah, it's going to take 200, maybe 300 hours. I remember, well, I don't know if it's really comparable, but I started in Heaven's Ward and I was playing pretty, I guess, fairly casually. And it took me maybe 2 or 3 months to get to max level. And that's just on your first job. Now, alt jobs, the second, or, you know, the second, third, fourth jobs, like any other jobs that you decide to level, those are not going to take as long because you've already got through all the story. It might take, I don't know, 30, 40.
Yeah, you get an experience boost on any job that's not your highest level job. There's all sorts of other ways to boost your experience. There's all sorts of fast methods to get experience because you can't play MSQ twice for experience. And so there's all this. The reason it's a lot is because every single expansion, first and foremost, starts you out by giving you an entire JRPG worth of story to clear. That will have combat in it. Different expansions, I think, have done it to different quality levels. Shadowbringers is the highest so far, in my opinion. And after that JRPG experience, with a couple of dungeons and stuff along the way, you're going to be in what is basically our 2-year cycle of endgame, and that comes with 5 patches, point 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the traditional method that we've moved into, and you have to clear all of those as well. For existing players, those were things that we looked forward to, and we got to do as they happened. But for a new player, they finish A Realm Reborn, they're done with A Realm Reborn. Why didn't Heavensward start? Because they have to do all the post A Realm Reborn stuff from the patches that were in between, and so it's just a lot. Keep in mind that, you know, for those of you on the free trial, I just mentioned buying the complete edition. You are in the free trial until you register that key. Once you register that key, I believe it comes with 30 days of free playtime. So they basically give you your first month's free, and then you start paying for your monthly subscription. All of that starts when you register that key. And so if you have a friend say, hey, I want to buy you the complete edition and get you into the game, or if it's on sale and you buy it, registering the key is what's going to start that timer. And so if you just download the free trial right now and the restrictions on the free trial are not restricting you from enjoying the game, you might as well enjoy the amount of time that you can. For those of you that have already done that, that ship has sailed. If you've already played the game in the past and you're a returner, that ship has sailed. That's okay. Of course, it's a bummer that hasn't reverted in. We're talking about $15 here. We're not talking about a mortgage payment. And so while I don't know your particular financial situation, it is an amount of money that I feel this game easily makes worth it. I count games as $1 of hour of joy. That's what I'm looking for. And when I compare that to things like going and seeing a movie or going and seeing, you know, a show or a sporting event or something like that, games at $1 per hour, I'm already holding them to a much higher standard in how much joy they owe me per dollar spent than I am other forms of entertainment and recreation. I'm already holding them to that, and MMOs actually looking to say $1 for an hour. I could probably get you down to like 50 cents or 25 cents or 10 cents, because $12 or $15 for the whole month, depending on your schedule, can become very, very, very reasonable. And so it's a bummer if you have to get to pay that early, but it's okay. This game is something that I think MMORPGs in general are worth those subscription costs.
40 hours. That's just like a random guess for alt jobs. There are a lot of systems in place to help speed up the alt job leveling process, and that's something to keep in mind too. You don't know how many other jobs you might level before you find the one that you decide to main, because the odds that you are going to actually stick with that first job that you played to max level, like that's going to be your main for Endwalker. I mean, it's kind of unlikely. It's kind of like deciding to marry the first girl you date. Like, it could happen, and it's really lucky for you if that happened, but you might want to look around. You might want to try some of the other play styles that are available.
Marital and dating advice aside, I picked up the game coming from World of Warcraft. At the time, I'd been playing a druid, switching back and forth between Resto and Boom Chicken, my laser chicken. And so being a ranged DPS and healer, and then the one expansion I didn't play druid, I played a hunter. I came in and picked up Black Mage. It had a fire and ice kind of lunar to solar type effect, and that felt really good. I played that through mid Stormblood when I got encouraged to try tanking, and I've been a warrior main ever since. It is very easy to level up a second job, especially if it's within the same role. And so it is something that there are jobs that have been introduced along the way that don't start at level 1. They're very easy to pick up. There are lots of ways to get cheap and easy experience. It depends on, are you talking about the shortest number of days to level? Are you talking about the shortest number of hours to level? There are lots of ways to level alts in this game, and the way the gear sharing works and the way switching between jobs works, it's very, very forgiving. So when people ask what the best job to get started is, the best job is the one you're excited to try. That's it. Especially as we look down the barrel at a brand new expansion coming this way. All 18 jobs are going to see changes to some degree. Even if they didn't change, the content will change, and therefore the way they are played will change. So we don't know. Some jobs will change a lot. Some jobs will change a little. Some jobs you'll think got better. Some jobs you may think got worse. We also get 2 new ones this expansion. And we've gotten 2 or more every expansion so far. So it's basically 20 new jobs to some degree, some being all the way new, some feeling all the way new, and some being, well, the content makes them feel different. And so the odds that you pick something now, watch it mature through the first 30 levels where it's just teaching you the game, and then watch it mature from there to the first level cap 50, the first time the job really hits its moment of a complete thought, and then watching the way the devs' thoughts changed over 60 and 70 and 80 and soon to be 90. You may like it at varying points in there, and you may want something different as well. It's a really easy thing to change your mind later. I would recommend getting to cap, getting your story done. For me, that means staying on one job. I know some people dabble between 2 or 3 or 4 as they level up. For me, it's, you know what, if I change my mind on this later, I'll know all the things about the game. I'll know how all the systems work. I'll know how dungeons work and all these different things. And so the only thing that's going to change for me is the job. And that's a lot easier once I'm established. And so I tend to pick games like this up with just one character first, one class first, and then go back and rush through the game on a second one with all of my now built knowledge. And so that's where my point of recommendation comes from. And I agree with her. Don't let your first job feel like you're stuck with it forever. Play through it, get to know the game, and if you love everything about the game except the way your job plays, then swap that.
Having alt jobs leveled is a really good idea in general, especially going into a new expansion where there's going to be a lot of new content that everybody wants to get into. If you can play more than one role, if you play a healer and a tank and a DPS, that's going to massively expand the number of groups you will be able to actually get into in Party Finder. And don't forget that if you get all of your battle jobs to 80, you actually earn an Amuro mount. So on top of making sure that you've given yourself enough time before the expansion to leisurely get to level 80 and not feel rushed, even have time to check out other jobs, you might also want to get your Relic weapon for Shadowbringers before Endwalker comes out. The reason I say that is because there are a lot of quest items that you need to assemble the Relic weapon for Shadowbringers that require a giant group of people all working together. Right now, everyone is doing that. It's like the thing that everybody in Endgame is doing. And after Endwalker comes out, people are not going to be doing it as much at all. And it may become more difficult to find groups for some of the raids that you need to get these items. It might be more difficult to get enough people into the Bajan Southern Front or Zadnor for all the critical engagements, all the skirmishes that require so many people working together to get these relic weapon quest items. So yeah, it might end up being a situation sort of like how Eureka is now, where yes, there are certainly some people who still do Eureka to get items for the Stormblood relic, but it is nothing near what it was like in Stormblood, and it's definitely much harder now than it was in Stormblood. So I fear the same thing may happen for the Shadowbringers relic. That situation may be somewhat helped by the addition of Data Center Visit coming, where people from different data centers can all come together and all work on the relic weapon together. That might, allow you to connect with more people wanting to do that content that is no longer as popular as it was, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Like, I think
Yeah, I think so. There are Discords that organize this stuff. So if you have an infinitely flexible schedule, you can mimic the interest, but the percentage of people is going to shrink once it becomes legacy content. And so you can go back and farm old relics, you can, but at the percentage shrinks. So making it out of a larger number will be some form of assistance as we move into the ability to jump and play with any player anywhere in the world. But it's not the same. And so Relic is the one piece of content in this game that I encourage people to, if they have any interest in, push a little bit further in trying to stay caught up. If they're like, well, I really liked the last step, I don't like this, I don't necessarily like this step, but I think I might like future raids or whatever that are tied to this content, then I encourage you to push just a little bit further. And that may mean that you have to pace it out because you're not really having fun. And so it's the one time in this game that you kind of get pushed into content that may not be for you because there's something at the end that is for you, whether that be the cosmetics or a raid that is tied behind it or anything like that, or future steps where it's just more fun for you. The relic steps are this kind of grind that the easiest time to do them is the day they come out, and every day after that it gets a little bit less easy. And so it just kind of trickles down at the end of that expansion. That's kind of like a hard, steep fall off. And it's not that there aren't groups that get together. It's not that there aren't people that achieve it and all of that. But it's just not as much like, oh, show up whenever and there's people in there. It's not as much like, wow, I went to get in a group and I couldn't even find, there were just too many people doing it when it first came out. That just doesn't really tend to happen 2 or 4 years after a relic is done. And so this relic step, in particular in Shadowbringers, the first relic you get is very, very lengthy. And then the second and any future relics, if you want to get them for multiple jobs, they actually have some big lengthy steps that don't have to be repeated. And so if you're getting into the game now and you're like, oh no, and I want 2 of these, just know that the second one is a whole lot shorter.
Think that I would not want to wait until after Endwalker to get my Shadowbringers relic weapon. Now, why would you want the Shadowbringers relic weapon? Pretty much it's just for glamour. I mean, after Shadowbringers, it is not going to be relevant anymore, but they look really nice. And I mean, now's the time it's going to be the easiest, I think, to get. And that's not even mentioning all of the unlocks that you will need to do after you complete the story. You will need to definitely do all of the Return to Iblis raids from Stormblood so that you can actually start on your relic weapon journey for Shadowbringers. You will need to unlock all the dungeons for all of your roulettes, all the normal raids, and all of their associated stories from every expansion. Like, you've got a lot of unlocking to do, and you don't want to feel rushed going through all that. And I can tell you that there is a huge wave of new players right now coming to the game. Like, I mean, I run the Discord server and YouTube and everything. I have access to all these analytics, and rest assured that we are experiencing a massive tsunami of new players coming to the game. And so because of that, it's an excellent time to jump in because you are not going to be hurting for people queuing for low-level content, low-level dungeons, and all that kind of stuff that you...
Yes, so the system has what's called a roulette, and it encourages people to go back and do old content to make sure that new players that need that content have people to party with them. They've done additional incentives through things like the irregular tombstone grinds that have encouraged people to go back and take part in some of those key moments to help people push through past things, as you have people that are in there for the irregular tombstones, and you have people that are in there because it's their first time and they need to clear it to continue the story. There's a bunch of other new players right now, so I've been in groups where all 3 people with me in my 4-man are new, and I'm the only person that's played before, as I go back and level jobs that I've never leveled, so I need it for experience. They need it to get through the story, and it's their first time, and they're saying, hey, sorry, I don't really know what's going on. That's okay. You're absolutely welcome. It's a great time to get in. As we get into the summer months, historically, as you look at the platform, YouTube views across the platform go down. And so if you are wondering, wondering the analytics that she refers to on the back end, since content creators don't necessarily always talk about kind of the analytics side of what's going on with Final Fantasy XIV, whether they have their viewpoint or maybe they have the viewpoint of a couple content creators that choose to share that with them. Just know that like the views across Final Fantasy, the search traffic across Google and across YouTube and across Twitch for Final Fantasy, especially for new players, is way up right now, and that's at a time that traditionally YouTube views across the entire platform actually sink a little bit compared to the earlier colder months in the year, and so just as a symptom, it's a symptom of a time that's incredibly popular to be a new player. No matter what game you're playing now, hyping for an expansion, especially coming off of a really strong expansion, going into what looks to be a strong expansion, it's a great time for new players to have interest, maybe people who have been looking at coming back or have been thinking, they've been on the fence about trying for the first time, and as they hop in, that means it's a great time for you to hop in too.
You will need to do as you're moving through the story. Keep in mind also that the story that has been going on since 1.0, the Hydaelyn Zodiark story arc, will be coming to its conclusion with the 6.0 patch, and from 6.1 and onward, it will be a whole new story arc that's going to last us for years and years to come. So like, this is an incredible time to not only catch up on all the story that's going to lead up to this like epic big finale in 6.0, but you'll also get to be there for the very beginning of the new story arc that will lead us onward for many years to come.
Yeah, so this is a little bit like knowing 5 to 6 months out that we're going into the finale season of a TV show. And so you have an opportunity here as a new player to binge everything that we've done so far and get invested and get plugged into the community and be part of that finale season, knowing in advance, as opposed to when they let a season wrap up and then tell us it was the last season or that the next season's not being picked up. They're getting to come to a conclusion on their terms, and they're letting us know in advance so that anybody that's been on the fence to get reinvested or invested for the first time has enough warning that when they announce this, that we've had, obviously it's an ever decreasing amount of warning, but we've known this for a little while now, and that's why players have been saying like, hop in, because this is effectively 10 years of build up to get us to this point. And with 6.1, we're going to begin something new. And so if you hop in now, you get to be a part of this finale. If you hop in later, that's okay too, because now you get to be a part of this new beginning where going into 6.1, the game will continue, your character will continue, but story-wise, we may have a little more context as we speak, but honestly, when we look at just objective facts, your guess is as good as ours what could be around the corner, because we can't really know. It's just a giant guess with what 6.1 will bring. So some people's predictions come with kind of spoiling various things and guesses based on where the game is now, but they are only guesses. And so technically any guess has weight. Any guess could be anything. And so going into 6.1, it is an exciting time for new and veteran players alongside each other to be just utterly caught off guard by what we charge into as we go into the first content patch after 6.0 wraps everything up this November.
A big reason why you might want to have your character fully ready, fully prepared when Endwalker comes is because it will allow you to be a part of that fresh expansion hype that is really fun. It's really a magical time in our community because we don't have a PTR, we don't have the public test realm or the beta testing where everybody knows what's going to be in the new expansion. No one knows what's going to be in the expansion.
They do a media tour where they let content creators in a little early, about a month out from the expansion, but all the NPCs have either been stripped of their names and identifying information or been removed altogether. So it's a lighter version of kind of like a PTR, and because we don't get to see the bosses, because they would be spoilery, that's one of the reasons I think you can't have a PTR for 14, as opposed to WoW. Like, knowing that Denathrius was the final boss of Nathria was on the PTR, and so we already knew we were fighting him because of announcements and things like that. And so I don't know that specifically was on the PTR, but like, we knew some bosses are on the PTR, some aren't. And so there's a ton of data mining that happens. And so like seeing the story in WoW, that has a mixed result. You have people already data mining the new zone for 9.1, and they're saying, hey, like, this doesn't feel as fleshed out as you said. And they're like, whoa, like, that's a partial thought. Give us a chance. When we release 9.1, there are going to be things we didn't share you, and it creates this weird dialogue. 14 doesn't have any of that, and there are pros and cons. They obviously don't get the amount of feedback, and so it puts a ton of pressure on their internal team to catch every odd and end mistake. And so we end up with jokes about like Raubon Extreme, where there was just something that wasn't, maybe a PTR and a load test would have done a better job predicting. And so we have these moments where there have been bottlenecks that have done that. But and so the PTR has a place in that development cycle, but it also has a place to not have one. And these games have just made different decisions based on that, based on the pro and cons list of having one. It's not as simple as do you want your players to test your game or your internal devs, or do you want to have a smooth launch or not a smooth launch? Like, it's not that simple. A PTR is a huge list of pros and cons, and Final Fantasy has chosen not to have one, and World of Warcraft has chosen to have one. And so they're just different. And so it does mean that content is new and fresh on day one for everybody. It is really hard to predict what we're going to be doing as we go into this. It's an exciting day, and if you have never played an MMORPG, caught up on content on day one of content launching, it's amazing. Expansions are obviously the biggest, patches are also big, but being there, being caught up and being in that moment is something that even when you're all doing like single player story together, as you walk up to the hub and there's all those other people there, there's a sense of community, there's a sense of being a part of something. That's just a really neat feeling. Community is one of the bigger things that I look to in these games, a sense of kind of belonging in something, in another group of nerds that I may or may not ever meet in person. It's just really nice. It's one of the things that I really like in multiplayer games versus single player, even if we're not doing things together. I really like that sense of being around other people that have an interest in something I have an interest in. And being there on day one is really special. And so if you're trying to decide, if you're looking at your schedule and you're saying, you know what, there's a version of events where I can comfortably and reasonably get caught up in time for Endwalker, and there's a version where I don't, does it really matter? I'm going to toss my vote heavily in the, if you can be there camp. If you can't, it's not like it's going anywhere. You can enjoy it at your own pace. But if there is a way to be caught up on day one, it is really something special. And being there on day one of what is going to end up being a finale for the community is going to be amazing. On that note, my goal is for my streams to be free streams, and I'm going to be playing, hopefully, this is my plan, to have 2 characters caught up so that I can do spoiler streams on the one character, and I can do non-spoiler streams on the other, for people that launch week have played a little bit but not played a lot. And so, just as like a little self promo right in the middle of this video, that's my plan for tackling it from a streaming perspective.
No one knows what's going to be in the story, and so because of that, we all get to experience it together, and it is something really, really special. And it's something that, obviously, you'll still be a part of it if you're not at max level at the time that Endwalker comes out, but you will not have to worry about getting spoiled if you're able to go through the story at the same time as everyone. Oh, and if you're thinking about playing the new job Reaper or the new job Sage, both those new jobs coming in Endwalker, then you might want to, for Sage, try out Scholar, see what a shield healer is like, because we know Sage will be a shield healer. For Reaper, you might want to play Dragoon a bit, because we know it will be a maiming job. At the very least, you'll be able to collect some maiming glamour, some maiming gear that a Reaper could use. This game also has a lot of seasonal events upcoming soon, like the Moonfire Fair, it's happening in August, the Make It Rain event happening in July, and those are recurring events that happen at the same time every year.
Yes, she also just showed this whole thing. Some of it's behind my face, but around the Moonfire Fair is the Rising. That's our anniversary event. Make It Rain is part of our Golden Saucer, our Dark Moon Fair type thing, or kind of like the super fun adventure box or whatever it's called in Guild Wars. So it's just craziness for craziness sake. The Final Fantasy 15 collaborative event gives you this 4-seater car and there's a chance to do a brief quest series. You do want about 300,000 MGP if I remember correctly. The Golden Saucer coins, you want to have that saved up for this in September. And in November, remember, that's our expansion launch. Somewhere in between these and that October timeframe will be the media tour. It's when we'll get the job action trailer. And so as we move through this, we've got patch 5.57, which will have to do with just kind of releasing the world, release the hounds. And so it'll be a chance to, usually that's where they start messing with the way the echo works to make content easier to clear, working with the way weekly lockout loot works, and kind of just opening up the game to say, hey, it's not about pacing the content anymore. You just knock it out, go nuts. You want to farm something, farm it. Most of our content in this game is not weekly. You can run things over and over, but for the things that are, that's the kind of patch where historically, if I remember correctly, that's where we lift a lot of that. 5.58 is our data center visit. So not only will you be able to play with people on servers that are on your same data center, but you'll be able to play with other data centers as well. So it's an exciting time to have this constant slow trickle of things to do that are optional. But most importantly, since this video is geared at new players, this is all stuff that you can do alongside as breaks from you pushing through that main story, getting caught up, being in a position where you can do Endwalker on day one. If you're done with story and you want more lore, keep in mind it's a wrap up to not only main story, but anything that might feel unresolved from other stories could be referenced as well. So it's a good time to go back and clear other raid stories, clear all your job quests, anything like that, because if it has a relationship with the way the world and everything works, it could be referenced in Endwalker. We just don't know. So what they have told us, since they're not going to spoil anything, is if you think that you'd like to have it wrapped up, we encourage you to do so.
In July, and those are recurring events that happen at the same time every year, and they usually will give new glamours, new emotes that you can get for free while the event is going on, but once the event is over, you cannot get them at all until next year when they put old
Moonfire Fair is our beach party, summer event
rewards on the Mog Station that you can buy for real money. So if you didn't get this outfit from Moonfire Fair 2020, it is too late to get it for free. We are also expecting the much anticipated return of the FF15 crossover event, which will let you get a 4-seater car. Brand new car! The last time we saw this event was 2 or 3 years ago, and who knows if it will come back. I mean, you probably want to get it while you can in September, because there's not a guarantee that it will return. Probably around September 2, they will show us the job actions trailer for Endwalker, where we will get a sneak peek at all the different new abilities, the different jobs you're going to get. We might get some information about how different jobs will work from a gameplay perspective, and that might help you decide what job you want to main if you just feel like waiting it out.
So on the job action trailer, as just a PSA here, because Zepla is ever positive, and so somebody has to be the downer, and I seem to be happy to be that guy. The job action trailer is a really mixed blessing. It's wonderful to get to see our jobs. It's very exciting, and they look very cool. It's where we find out things like how much Machinist was changing going into Shadowbringers. This comes along with a media tour where we get a chance to see those tooltips, and so we see some of the early concepts of potency changes relative to each other and all of that. But keep in mind, this game is about battle classes that clear battle content. So what will happen, just to get this out in the space now, is when we have the job action trailer, we will all be excited. We will all want to talk about it. I will be guilty of it. I am excited to get a chance to talk about it. If I am invited to the media tour, I'll be under embargo for an amount of time, and then I'll get to finally share it. So I will have a bunch of pent-up energy to tell you all about what I find exciting about all of this news as it trickles out. We will not get to see the new raids, the new Alliance raids, the new trials. We'll get to see maybe 1 or 2 dungeons. We're not going to have DPS meters. We're not going to have all this stuff. And so when a job changes, people will see all this and they will say, this potency went down, this potency went up, this job looks more interesting, this job doesn't. We won't know how gearing progression is going to feel on it. We won't know how it's going to feel in content with all the different player comps. We won't know how easy it is to master in various content. We won't have the full picture. That will not stop us from a community as deciding which jobs are the best in Endwalker and which jobs absolutely are total garbage before the content ever comes out. We will decide as a community, and so just before any like negativity gets out there about certain jobs are ruined or anything like that, keep in mind that it takes a full picture, and the first raid series will do that, and that historically in Final Fantasy, jobs have been balanced enough that any job has been eligible to be in a group for any content. We haven't had jobs just left out to dry, and that has been more true over time than less, in my opinion. You see regularly in the World First race that, you know, one of the competing groups or whatever will bring one of the jobs that's considered the worst in its role. They do just fine. But jobs will change. There will be some that feel better, there will be some that feel worse. The best way to protect yourself against this is have multiple jobs leveled in any role you think you will enjoy. Keep in mind that there is a new healer and a new DPS class coming, and you will not be unique in thinking that you want to try those. So it is not a bad time to try or consider tanking early in the expansion, because I have a feeling there's going to be a few healers and a few DPS that may not stay with it long term in the expansion, so early on there might be a shortage of tanks. The job action trailer is a hype generating event. It's exciting, it's fun to be a part of. But this entirely long PSA in the middle of this is saying that is all it is. It is not the be-all, end-all determinant of how these jobs will perform long-term. We will see what things look cool. There are people that have already decided that Reaper looks fun. Looks. We don't know anything. We already like, oh, Sage is going to be the best healer. We don't know that. I'm not saying they won't be. I'm saying we cannot know. And so not getting a chance to really see how these feel, how these are. There will be a bunch of people who switch from their existing healer job to Sages early on. And then some of them, it will be a great fit, and others will trickle back to whatever job they were on before. So just keep that on mind. While it is fun to be excited for a moment, don't let that excitement start to generate some of the negativity that sometimes pops up around it, where we're afraid that our job's been ruined or forgotten or was not treated with enough love compared to another job. Let's just focus on the good, and let's be excited with that month or 2 months until the expansion on the things that we know that are looking good, and let's let the content decide if any of the fears and downsides are something that is really worth letting bother us, knowing that they're going to get to change any job balance that they want over 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5. It's not a death sentence. This game doesn't have droughts of patches. We've got plenty of time to adjust things, plenty of time to give feedback, and we don't have the full picture right when we get the job action trailer.
A little longer, that's perfectly fine. So are you a new player? Are you still in the free trial? Are you considering whether or not to buy Endwalker now or buy Shadowbringers right now? Or are you a max level player and you're already good to go? You're all ready for Endwalker. You have your main job chosen, and at max level you are like fully decked out with gear. You got your relic, and all you're doing.
Gear wise, anything above 500 is optional. Current max is 530s with a 535 weapon, but anything above 500, obviously the higher you go, the harder it is like to find ways to get it. But anything above 500, if you're not having fun pushing up your gear progression, just know that the quest loot and the early dungeon loot and all that is going to toss it out the window for level 90 loot. So anything above I-500 is, you can clear everything casual on Shadowbringers. If you're not getting into extremes and savages, you're fine. If you are above 500 and you don't want to do the harder content tied to this expansion, and you just want to be ready for the expansion, and then you want to go take a break and play another game, or take a break and level another job, or whatever you want to do, I-500 at that point, I think, is the soft cap where everything above that is up to you.
doing is just waiting, chilling till Endwalker comes out. Let me know in the comment section and down below. And if you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow Warriors of Light. Thank you.
Thank you, Zepla. Delightful video. I think that the best time to get started is right now. I need to update the description here on Gaming Kinda. On Work to Game, we have over 2,000 videos posted, and it is in the template now. So the vast majority of those, and it's been in the template, has a link to the free trial. We don't get anything from that. We are not supported in that. Square Enix, if you'd like to pay us for that, I'll leave it there. But as a negotiating space, if you don't pay me for all the people we drive to 14, I'm still going to leave it there. So not a really hard negotiating line. It's something that I think is really awesome to get players into. While yes, I want the game to get better, and so I do talk about areas I think it can improve, or areas that another game I think is doing a particular thing better, or areas that I think the community can improve around. Final Fantasy XIV, action-wise, if you look at behavior and you judge that, is something that I have been posting videos on regularly for the last 5 years. I've been playing longer than the last 5 years, and I put an immense amount of my time and energy into spending time around. I never planned to go full time with content creation, and now I have in Final Fantasy XIV. The community around it is a huge part of that. I adore this game. I do. The amount of time I spend on it, when I get accused of liking another game more or not liking this game, it would be really weird for me to set time out in my life to make less money to pursue a career into talking about MMORPGs with a huge emphasis on Final Fantasy XIV, all as a long ploy to post hundreds or possibly thousands of videos, stream hundreds or thousands of hours of a game that I already have thousands of hours of playtime in, all as a long ploy to recommend the game to new players because I don't like it. That would be weird. So I really enjoy this game. If you have any questions, you can always come in and ask them. This community, as long as you're being respectful, can be incredibly receptive to new players. There are a handful of vocal people that will wish that you had never played another game before this, or that you only play it their way. Just know that that is a vocal minority. The vast majority of us, if you are here to have a good time and just be a respectful member of the community and come in and just enjoy the game, are excited to have you here and excited to help you feel comfortable and ready to have fun any way that they can help. So it is a great game. It is phenomenally successful within this genre for a reason. And I think that 2021 looks like a great year for Final Fantasy XIV. Not the first great year, but definitely possibly the greatest yet.